And what is up, Man Hour Nation? Michael Buckhouse here with the Man Hour. Be sure to manhourradio.com. Check out the merchandise page or check out the blog section as well. As we continue our trek through the NFL, we've stopped by the East, we've stopped by the West, but now it's time to venture up to the North, to the Windy City to be exact, and that's where we're going to kick off our NFC North breakdown this week, and that's with the Chicago Bears. And of course, when we talk about Chicago Bears, we got to welcome the man, the myth, the legend, the peanut butter to my ladies, Brandon freaking Combs. What's up, Combs?
Oh, what's going on, Michael Buckheiser, man? Good to be back. Good to hear that peanut butter to your ladies again.
Listen, man, it has been way too long. You are doing great things up there with Windy City Sports Talk. Before we get too carried away, tell the people about yours and Fitch's show over there and what you've been doing.
Yeah, man. So Windy City Sports Talk, Combs and Fitz, catch us every Monday night, actually, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We dive into pretty much everything. Right now we're breaking down a different NFL division each week. But we do focus mostly on Chicago sports. And then, you know, I've been doing my thing with BetQL and Odyssey Radio and producing over there now and stuff like that. So it's been an adventure since the last time that I was on the Man Hour airwaves.
Yeah, man. We used to do great things over here, have a lot of fun. I knew how to get underneath your skin very, very easily. And we knew when those cheeks turned red, it was time to call 911, and Michelle would always have them on speed dial, ready to go. But
she's got the defibrillator sitting over there right now. She's waiting.
There you go. But like, you've been doing great things. I missed you. Super proud of you. Everything that you're doing. And when I wanted to talk Chicago Bears, you were the first person that I called, and of course you had to say yes, right? I mean, you can't say no to me. No, I'm kidding. It is definitely great to have you on here. But before we get breaking down the Chicago Bears, they had a pretty good offseason, right? They brought in some notable free agencies. They pretty much nailed the draft 100%. And Christopher Hughes right off the bat says, let's hope this and pray this quarterback is not overrated. And that's the first question that I want to ask you, is because many people are putting Caleb Williams up on this pedestal, Super Bowl champion, you know, leading them to 12, 13 wins this season, playoff burst, yada, yada, yada. Right off the bat, do you think there's too much pressure on Caleb Williams this season?
I mean, I wouldn't say too much pressure. When they first drafted Caleb Williams, I had my doubts about the kid too. Like, he wasn't even number one on my quarterback board, and people think that I'm crazy, but I did not have him number one on the quarterback board this year. And the guy, from the time that he started finally talking, where nobody else was talking for him, not his dad, not his representation, nobody was talking for him, Caleb Williams actually started talking in front of a mic and answering questions and doing all this stuff. He's kind of eased my concerns about whether or not he can handle the stresses and the hype of being the Bears quarterback, right? Because let's face it, you know me, I'm a Cubs fan. I love Chicago sports. I live and breathe it. But this is a Bears town, and Michael Jordan is God in Chicago. But if Caleb Williams starts a dynasty here, and if he is the quarterback that everybody says he's going to be, and he wins a Super Bowl or multiple Super Bowls, or has the Bears, you know, contending the same way Patrick Mahomes as the Kansas City Chiefs contending, he's going to eclipse Michael Jordan in this town, because that's how big it is to be a quarterback for the Chicago Bears in the city. This is a Bears city when the Bears are right. I don't think that the pressure is too much for him. I think that the way that he's talked and the way that I've listened to him talk, I actually think that he's built for this. I think that he's built for the big lights. I think that he enjoys it. He enjoys all the pressure. He enjoys the cameras being on him and being the center of attention. Now, whether or not he can translate that on the field is still to be determined, right? I've seen all the highlights over at USC. I've seen all the things that he's done. Great. You can do that against a Pac-12 defense. Try doing that against the NFC North.
Right.
That's what I need to see. I need to see him translated on the field. And Buck, you know me, I love my Bears, but I'm a realist, man. And this organization has never developed a quarterback that they have drafted. ever, not once. Zero quarterbacks have signed past their rookie deal since the draft was incepted into the NFL for the Chicago Bears. And it's been really bad quarterback play for a very long time here. Bears fans are excited, rightfully so, but we need to see that translate on the field.
Yeah, that was the first thing that kind of came to mind when I saw the Bears drafting a quarterback number one overall. Not because they have drafted a quarterback number one overall, and it's been quite some time, but they've been top of the draft. Mitchell Trubisky, Justin Fields, even I guess Jay Cutler wasn't drafted by the Bears, was he, or was he drafted by the Broncos?
No, he was drafted by Broncos.
Yeah. So, but like either way, you are right. They have yet to really turn that franchise quarterback into a quarterback per se. And Christopher Hughes brings up a great point here. He's got everything in place to win. Now it's up to him. And this offseason, the Chicago Bears basically went out and built a team for a quarterback to kind of basically plug and play. They added Keenan Allen. They added DeAndre Swift, right? They drafted another receiver as well in like Rome. So do you think the Bears right now, Combs, are kind of like a plug and play quarterback system, kind of like they have out in San Francisco with the 49ers and Brock Purdy?
I wouldn't say a plug and play system, because you still got to see Shane Waldron. I mean, I believe in Shane Waldron because of what he was able to do in Seattle and resurrect Geno Smith, right? And they had decent amount of weapons, right? You had Tyler Lockett, you had DK Metcalf, you've got those things. The Bears have put Caleb Williams in the best position to succeed that they've ever put any quarterback, right. Including Justin Fields. And you know how big of a Justin Fields guy I was, and still am, really. I think adding DeAndre Swift, adding DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, the list goes on, but also adding Coleman Shelton, who I think is a very under the radar ad for the Bears this year. They improved tremendously at the center position. He was a 66.1 PFF grade last year, 17th ranked center in all of the NFL, and had a 74.6 grade on his run blocking. So I really like what they've done. I really like the fact that they've, become I wouldn't say juggernaut of an offense, but they've become an offense that should be able to perform, especially when they've got a top 5 defense, and they've got a defense that isn't going to allow very many points week to week.
So one thing that I want to hit on that you kind of brought up is that you were a huge Justin Fields fan. And I believe about this time last year, or maybe it was even during this season, you said Justin Fields anywhere is pretty much a Super Bowl contender. And I know you still stand by that 100%. So you said Caleb Williams wasn't your number one guy on the board as far as quarterback goes. And the Bears had a really good off season, adding players and free agencies and whatnot. Do you think the Bears should have gave Justin Fields another year to potentially to prove himself, or did a change have to be made now?
I think business-wise, the change had to be made now, right? Because if you're Ryan Poles, you've got to marry yourself to a quarterback, and you're not the guy who drafted Justin Fields. You are now the guy who drafted Caleb Williams. Right. So right now, your career hinges on that. Now, Justin Fields was coming up on his contract. You put yourself in with a new quarterback, so you kind of give yourself 3 more years per se in NFL terms. Maybe not so much in Chicago fans terms, but at least in NFL terms, you gave yourself another 3 years of your job to get this thing right. And so I think a change did need to be made for the Bears business wise. You reset the clock on when you have to give an extension to a rookie quarterback. And instead of it being at the end of this year, it is now at the end of 2027. So a big difference business wise, but I really think that Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles are building this thing the right way. And that's something that the city of Chicago has never seen with the Bears. We've never had a front office that is running things the way that the front office is being run now.
Yeah, and our guy Mark D is in the chat from Wayne G's NFL Expert podcast over like we had Mark on a few weeks ago, but he asked the question, is Caleb Williams a good fantasy pickup? And I think no. What do you think?
I think it depends on how deep your league is. It depends on how many quarterbacks you're running. If it's a 2 quarterback system, he's definitely a good play. If it's a 1 quarterback league and it's a, you know, PPR league, something like that, he might be a guy that, hey, you go after wide receivers in the first and second and maybe even third round, and then you can pick up Caleb Williams in like the fourth or fifth. And he'd be a good backup too, somebody to have sitting on your bench. If you're in a dynasty league, something like that, he's a good guy to have on your taxi squad, because I do believe that Caleb Williams has all the intangibles, can be this year's CJ Stroud and can perform right off the bat. But at the same time, you have a little bit of reservation, right? He's still a rookie quarterback, and it's still, you have to prove it on the field. So I would say, I'm not taking him over, I'm not taking him in the top 10 quarterbacks right now. But I would take a flyer on him in later rounds for sure.
Later rounds, as in like the last pick of the draft, because that's where the Bears are going to be probably all season long, is last place. But the Chicago Bears, I kept harping on. They had a really, really good off season. They drafted well. They drafted Rome in wide receiver. They also picked up Keenan Williams as well, and the wide receiver core. Now your receiver core looks like DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and then of course Rome. Is the wide receiver room, Combs, too crowded?
No, I don't think so, and I think that they've got some depth there too. With Dante Pettis and Tyler Scott as well. Velus Jones is they're just, he's the one guy. I don't know why Ryan Poles has kind of held on to him, but he's been a complete bust ever since they drafted him 2 years ago. Can't hang on to the ball for nothing. But with Tyler Scott and Dante Pettis, I think they've got some depth there. Keenan Allen's at that point in his career where he's not a guy who's going to command the 15 to 16 touches a game like, a lot of the other number one wide receivers are. And not only that, but you're also coming onto a team that already has DJ Moore, who is the alpha of that group and he is going to command a bunch of the touches. I think the addition of Keenan Allen just allows Rome Odunze to grow as a rookie. I think it allows him to start off as your 3, allows him to start off in the slot, allows him to just get comfortable within the system, because there's not a lot of pressure, because you can't double team a guy like Rome Odunze right now because of Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. So I actually think Rome Odunze might have the best offensive output from any of the wide receivers taken in the first round of the NFL draft this past year, just because of the talent that he's got surrounding him and because he's not going to draw that much attention, especially early on in the season.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be flying under the radar a lot, I feel, because of the talent around him and every other receiver that was drafted above him, right? Malik is going to probably be the number one guy and demand a lot of the ball over there. Also, this offseason, you guys added DeAndre Swift as well, adding to that running back room, which last season seemed to be one of your most dominant kind of features, the bright side. Now it looks kind of thin. Do you like the addition of DeAndre Swift, or do you going to miss some of the guys that you dropped?
I do like the addition of DeAndre Swift. I like adding him to Roschon Johnson. I think what it is that you've got 2 backs. DeAndre Swift is a guy who can stay healthier than a guy like Khalil Herbert had been able to in the past. Roschon Johnson is a downhill running back. He's the type of guy who will run you over. DeAndre Swift is more of an east to west running back who can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think it's going to be a good complement for Caleb Williams. I think they're going to be able to, Shane Waldron is going to be able to attack you from a bunch of different angles. You're not going to be able to stack 8 in the box on the Bears like you probably could have last year. You're not going to be able to just rush and blitz and do all of this stuff, because the Bears right now, let's just face it, man, if this was any other franchise, if this was any other team, and if this was any other quarterback that wasn't a rookie this year, we would be talking about this offense like they might be competing for a Super Bowl this year. That's how good and how well built this offense has become. And in 2 or 3 years, I think the Bears are going to be that talk of the NFC North, if not even next year, the talk of the NFC North of who's going to knock them off and how long is it going to take before they can knock them off.
Yeah, the Bears, have definitely gotten better over the last 3 years for sure, doing a lot of good things, adding good defensive pieces as well. But one of the topics from your guys' show last week or 2 weeks ago, your boy Fitz brought up that Matt Eberflus could possibly be the coach of the year. When I first heard that, there is no freaking way. But if you look at it, in years past, Brian Daboll went to the Giants his first season, led them to the playoffs, beat the Minnesota Vikings in the playoff. Won Coach of the Year, hasn't done really shit since. Can Matt give me a reason why Matt Eberflus could win Coach of the Year?
Well, look, right now he's a betting favorite actually in Vegas. He has the lowest odds, or I should say the highest odds, to win Coach of the Year in Vegas right now. So yeah, I'll say this. Look, if he wins the Coach of the Year, it's because of everything that's been put around him. It's because of the job that Ryan Poles has done going and hiring the coaching staff, going and getting Shane Waldron, going and bringing back Eric Washington, the defensive coordinator, who was in Buffalo the last couple of years and was actually promoted last year to assistant coach of the Buffalo Bills. And so, you bring guys like this in and you surround Matt Eberflus that way. Now, look, I'm not a big believer in Matt Eberflus. Anybody who watches Windy City Sports Talk will know that. I don't sing his praises. I don't even believe he should have kept his job heading into the offseason. But if he is Coach of the Year, it's because of the job that everybody's done around him. And look, Matt Eberflus seems like a great guy. He's just not a guy that I want as necessarily as my head coach. I think this is going to end up being Shane Waldron's job in the long run. And I think that Matt Eberflus is just a placeholder for him until that happens.
Yeah, I've been looking back the past few seasons of your guys' win-loss record. Matt Eberflus has won back-to-back games once in his tenure in Chicago.
And not only that, but I mean, when you think about it, how many times has a head coach been able to have not one, but two coaches on his staff have to leave the team because of off the field issues?
Right.
And not only that, but then you lose 3 games last year in historic fashion in the fourth quarter of games, which instead of being a 7-win team, you could have been a 10-win team, and you still get to keep your job, but everybody else around you got fired. You were the only person on your staff that was still standing. I don't know if that's ever happened before. I don't know if it'll ever happen again. But the Bears and Ryan Poles saw something in Matt Eberflus. I don't know if it's just his yes man. I don't know if it's just because he's going to be a guy that's easy to let go when Shane Waldron is ready to run the show. But
right.
It's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. But I would not be putting my money on Shane Waldron, or I'm sorry, on Matt Eberflus to win Coach of the Year. I mean, if I'm going to forget his name now, the head coach of the Houston Texans, if he didn't win it last year, I don't think there's any way, unless the Bears are something like 14-3 and on pace to win a Super Bowl or something at the end of this season, that Matt Eberflus can win this.
Right. So the coach of the Houston Texans was DeMeco Ryans is his name.
DeMeco Ryans, there you go.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we are talking with Brandon Combs from Windy City Sports Talk. Guys, be sure to like them on Facebook. He is live every Monday, 6 p.m. Central Time, right here on Facebook.com and, of course, YouTube.com as well. So, Holmesy, when we talk about Matt Eberflus potentially being a yes man, being this guy, and this guy, let me take it one step further here. If Matt Eberflus happens to win Coach of the Year this season, it will set the Bears organization back another year, because of the simple fact that I think Matt Eberflus is probably one of the worst coaches in the NFL. Historically, the Bears have not developed a quarterback, and Matt Eberflus has had Justin Fields for 2 seasons. We didn't really see any progression in Justin Fields whatsoever. You now have your, quote, franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams on the Bears staff. If you guys keep Matt Eberflus beyond this year, which I think you have to if he wins a Coach of the Year. I don't think a coach has ever won Coach of the Year and then been fired that off season. It will set your franchise back a little bit, meaning instead of 2-3 years they're winning the North and competing for Super Bowls, it could be 4, 5, 6 years, and then that Super Bowl window could be shut. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, see, so I don't blame Matt Eberflus for not developing Justin Fields, right? Because Matt Eberflus is a defensive guy. He came over from Indianapolis, defensive coordinator over there. He's a defensive-minded guy. Luke Getsy was the guy brought in to develop Justin Fields, and that was, for lack of a better word, it was a shit show. It was just one of those where you looked at Luke Getsy, and he had never been an offensive coordinator anywhere, and people thought, oh, well, he worked with Aaron Rodgers. This guy's going to be great. Look at what they were doing in Green Bay. And then come to find out, that was just the Aaron Rodgers show, and Luke Getsy was just along for the ride. Right. So I don't give Matt Eberflus the flack for the lack of development for Justin Fields. That's all Luke Getsy. What I do give Matt Eberflus flack for is, things that have happened on the defense. The fact that they were the worst coach team right out of the gate for the first 5 weeks last year. The defense was really bad until they added, went out and got Montez Sweat at the deadline. And then all of a sudden their defense became a top 5 defense in the league. I believe they finished number 1 in run defense last year. So I don't give Matt Eberflus as much credit as a lot of people do. They're like, oh, look at the job he did with that defense. People forget they lost, and I mentioned it earlier. They lost 3 games in historic fashion in the fourth quarter. That falls on your defense too. They were up by multiple scores in the fourth quarter and end up losing all 3 of those games. That's bad. And so for me, that's what I develop my ill thoughts towards Matt Eberflus, is because Eberflus just he hasn't been that guy. He hasn't shown that he can run a football team. Now maybe he's a great defensive coordinator. I'll give you that, but that's about all he is. He's not a leader of men. And when you listen to him behind a mic, it comes out that way too, because you're just like, I don't know if this guy knows what he's talking about. Last year, where there was a time when he was talking about whether or not Justin Fields would play. And at the same time, in 2 minutes of the same press conference, he went from Justin Fields is out to Justin Fields is questionable to Justin Fields might play to Justin Fields is out. So yeah. It was just one of those things where he's not a guy who could lead your football team. But like I said, I think that's why they went out and got Shane Waldron, because I think Shane Waldron will be that guy, if not next year, then the year after.
All right, guys. So we are speaking with my man BC Combs from Windy City Sports Talk, my right hand man for many years over here at Man Hour Sports Ray Radio. He has to prepare for his show tonight at 6 p.m. Central Time. Combsy, gun to your head, what's the Bears' record this year?
I'm gonna say, gun to my head, I'm going 10-7. Gun to my head. Is this a
playoff team then?
I think that they can be a wild card team, or at least compete for a wild card spot. If I have to rely on something for my life, I'm sticking at 10-7. But I think that this should be somewhere between a 10 to maybe even a 12-win team, especially with the softness of the schedule. 8th easiest schedule in the league.
All righty, you heard it here first from Windy City Sports Talk here. 10 wins, potentially 12 for the Chicago Bears. Combs, as always, thank you for joining me, man. We'll definitely catch up soon.
Hey, man, anytime.
All right, later, man.
Later.
All right, guys, so that was my man, BC Combs from the Windy City Sports Talk. We talked a little bit about Caleb Williams. We talked a little bit about the crowded wide receiver room. We talked about Matt Eberflus potentially being coach of the year. And then Jim Powell pops in. Jim Powell pops in and says they're going to be a 3-win team. A 3-win team for the Chicago Bears right off the bat. And Jim, I don't know, man. I don't know. The Chicago Bears do have a favorable schedule, right? They do have a favorable schedule. They had a pretty damn good offseason. If you have to rank their draft and free agent signings, they have to be at potentially number 1, if not 2. Really, really good offseason. But let's dive into their 2024 NFL season. And week number 1, rookie Caleb Williams will take the helm versus Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans. Right off the bat, this is a challenge for the Chicago Bears. I think many people are sleeping on the Tennessee Titans this season. I think the Tennessee Titans are going to be a really, really good team. They're going to be a well-balanced team. And the loss of King Henry is actually going to be an addition for the Tennessee Titans. They don't have to worry about feeding King Henry the ball. They got Tony Pollard. They picked up Calvin Ridley. The Titans are going to be a really, really good team. However, I do think the Bears do get the week 1 win over the Tennessee Titans. The hype around the Chicago Bears week 1 is going to be very, very, very high. DJ Moore might go off for 150, 180 yards. We saw it last season, right? What was it? 3 catches for like 100 yards and 3 scores on those screen passes. We could definitely see that again. So I do have the Bears starting off the season 1-0, giving us into a week 2 matchup. They travel to Houston to take on CJ Stroud and the very surprising Houston Texans. The Texans kind of got in the playoffs last season with a fluke, a drop pass, and they wouldn't have made it. But the Colts tailback did ultimately drop the pass. Texans made the playoffs and ultimately won a playoff game over the Cleveland Browns. But the Houston Texans got a lot better this season as well. We talked about how good the Bears' offensive offseason was. The Houston Texans may have had a better, if not equivalent, offseason with the Chicago Bears, adding Stephon Diggs, adding Joe Mixon, and adding Danielle Hunter as well, already to a pretty stout team. In week 2, I think that the Houston Texans flexed on the Chicago Bears, and they show them that, hey, if you want to come to our league, you have to play a little bit better than this. The Houston Texans beat the Bears week number 2, giving us a week 3 matchup. This is a week 3 matchup that Combs is like, hey, pre-show, the Bears have a pretty favorable schedule. They play the Titans, they play the Colts, they play the Rams, Panthers, and Jaguars, and Commanders and Cardinals. All pretty easy in Combs' eyes. Do not sleep on the Indianapolis Colts. Do not sleep on the AFC South, period. The AFC South is much improved this season besides the Jaguars, and I think the Colts upset the Bears again in week 3, giving the Bears a 1-2 start off to the season. Week 4, not only do the Bears kind of have a, quote, favorable schedule first half of the season, they play a lot of home games. They play a lot of home games and a lot of home games in a row. And this is one of the home games versus the LA Rams. They kind of struggled on the road versus the Texans and versus the Colts. Week number 4, they come back home to play the LA Rams and Matthew Stafford and the boys. I think the Bears get back on track, and they look like a potential playoff team. They look like a potential 10-12 win team, as BC Combs said. They look pretty good. They beat the Rams, I feel. 2-2 going into week 5. Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers come into town. Riding off that high note, the Panthers are just bad. The Panthers are really bad. The Bears win. 2-game winning streak. Another home game. 3rd home game in a row. Highest paid quarterback in the NFL, Trevor Lawrence, and the Jacksonville Jaguars coming to town, and this is where the wheels start to fall off the bus. This is where the wheels kind of fall off the bus in the Chicago Bears landscape here. One of the biggest needs for the Chicago Bears this season is defensive line help. They need defensive line help, some more veteran presence to really solidify that defense. They have a pretty good linebacking core. They have a pretty good secondary, but the front 4 is not very good. And I think the Jacksonville Jaguars exposed that. Travis Etienne finally finds his footing for a game or 2, and he is a first-round draft pick for a reason, and he shows it here against the Chicago Bears. They lose this game. Week 7, it's a bye week for the Chicago Bears. They are looking for some type of defensive front here. They're out there searching. Are they going to make a play for Von Miller from the Buffalo Bills? Are they going to potentially, they are looking. I don't know where they're looking, but they're looking. Is it going to be from the Commanders? Is it going to be from the Bills? Hell, it could be from the like the Atlanta Falcons. They're looking. They're looking, and that looking carries on into week 8. When they do travel to Washington, D.C. to take on the Commanders. And I misspoke, the Jacksonville game is in London. All the reason more why the Jacksonville Jaguars will win that game. The Chicago Bears lose to the Commanders. The Commanders are the dark horse of the NFC. We said it last week. I said, last Thursday, right? I have them as an 8-win team. This is one of their wins over the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are going to quickly show that they cannot stop the run consistently, and the Commanders expose that, giving the Bears 2 losses in a row. So they travel from the East Coast over to the West Coast to take on the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray. The Chicago Bears have traveled a lot at this particular point. They traveled to London. They traveled to Washington. Now they're back to Arizona, and they're still on a losing streak. This is their third loss in a row, 5th loss of the season at this particular point. Arizona Cardinals are going to be a terrible team. They are going to be a really, really bad team, but they're play better than the Chicago Bears week 9. The Chicago Bears they're kind of a sinking ship right now. Now, I'm not saying they're a bad team. They're just not playing well. Not playing well. Combs says the number 1 ranked rush defense can't stop the run consistently. Yes, they can't, Combs. They need another defensive front. Whether it's an edge rusher, whether it's a nose tackle, they need something to solidify that front 4. And just because they were ranked number 1, they still gave up double-digit points every game last season. PFF needs to recalculate how they do their stats. This is the 3rd loss in a row. Finally back at home. Finally back at home versus another inferior opponent to the New England Patriots. The Patriots, I believe I had them at 6 wins this particular season. If you remember correctly, I said if Jacoby Brissett plays all season, the Patriots could potentially be a 7, 8, maybe even 9-win team. Week 10, I still think Jacoby Brissett will still be in there. I still think Jacoby Brissett is playing well enough to not really give the reins off to Drake May as of yet. And I think he plays well enough to beat the Chicago Bears in Chicago. The Chicago Bears are now on a 4-game losing streak. 4-game losing streak, give us a Week 11 game at home versus the Green Bay Packers. A Green Bay Packers team that could potentially be winning the NFC North. I think the Bears get back to their 10-win ways, to their 12-win ways. I think they play well in this game. I think they play, do I dare say it, great in this game. They play a damn near flawless game. Jordan Love throws an interception. The running game for the Packers just isn't good, even though A.J. Dillon and Josh Jacobs are the biggest 1-2 punch duo in the NFL. Sorry, Raiders fans. Sorry, Packers fans. Josh Jacobs isn't all the hype. I think the Bears win this game, getting back on track. This is the first division game of the year, and they needed that win huge because they were sliding in the wrong direction quickly. Week 12, back at home again. Another home series, 3 games in a row. They play Minnesota Vikings. And J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold, don't know who really the quarterback is going to be at this particular point. But the Vikings are an underrated team, guys. Last season, when the Vikings was on their 5th quarterback, right? Kirk Cousins goes down. Insert astronaut boy. Insert Nick Mullins. Insert somebody else. They had 4 or 5 quarterbacks throughout that season, and the Vikings were still a competitive team. They were in the playoff hunt till the very, very last week. Granted, they did lose Danielle Hunter. But also on the flip side, during their struggles last season, Justin Jefferson was out most of the season. He is back healthy. Vikings win this game. Vikings beat the Chicago Bears in Chicago, giving them right now a 4-7 record. Give us the Week 13. I believe this is Thanksgiving game. Not mistaken. Chicago Bears travel to Detroit to take on Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. The Chicago Bears seem to always play well against the Detroit Lions. Last year, they could not close the deal. Combs talked about it, how they lost fourth quarter games in historic fashion. This game was one of them. This year, I do think that they beat the Detroit Lions. I actually think they end up sweeping the Detroit Lions this season. I think the Detroit Lions are a highly overrated team. I still think they're good, but I do not think that they're the 14, 15 win team that many of you Lions fans think they are. I think the Bears get on track for one game, and then they beat the Detroit Lions week 13. Week 14, back on the road again. This is really a tough stretch for the Chicago Bears, right? So they played the Packers, they played the Vikings, they played the Lions, and now they're playing the San Francisco 49ers at San Francisco, or at Santa Clara. The 49ers, I don't see any way they're slowing down in the regular season right now. I don't see any way, shape, or form that right now the 49ers are a beatable team in the regular season. I think the 49ers kind of passively overlook the Bears, so it is a competitive game on the scoreboard. But really, from top to bottom, I think the 49ers pretty much dominate the Chicago Bears all game long. We got Matt Henry in the chat. What's up, Matt? He says, Bear down. Let me get that chat moved up a little bit. He says, Bear down. What's up, Matt? Hope you're having a grand old day. We are breaking down your Chicago Bears here. Week 14, I do think they lose to the mighty San Francisco 49ers. Give us the Week 15 matchup. Back on the road. Taking on Skull Nation. We lost to Skull Nation earlier. A few weeks ago. 4 weeks ago. This time at Minnesota. They lose again. Bears are just not looking very good right now. Not looking very good right now. Caleb Williams might be talking about being the bust label. Matt Eberflus has 2 feet out the door, getting shoved out at this particular point. The Bears' high hopes to playoffs, NFC North dominant Super Bowl championship, it's kind of all going out the window. Kind of gonna go out the window. Then Week 16 rolls around. Detroit Lions come into town. We've already beaten the Detroit Lions once. Let's do it again. I said they sweep the season this year, and I think the Bears beat the Lions come Week 16. They carried that momentum as a home game when the Seahawks come into town, and they beat the Seahawks as well, giving them 6 wins on the season thus far. And then game finale, 2024 finale at Green Bay. Green Bay Packers are playing for the division title at this particular point. They're playing all their starters. Bears are kind of like, let's just get the season over with. Packers win this game, and I had the Bears finishing at 6-11 this season. I do think the Bears are a competitive team. I think they have a lot of good pieces in place. But ultimately, they're just not quite there yet. Much like the Raiders, much like the Chargers, right? They have pieces laid out. They have the pieces starting to get put together, but the outside of the border of the puzzle is there, but the inside is still a combobble mess, right? The Chicago Bears have the running back, have the back 7 on their defense, have the receiver core, have a pretty good running game. Offensive line, still some question marks there to be determined. We'll have to watch some more training camp, which starts next week, I want to say. And then they got the Hall of Fame game, right? They play the Hall of Fame game, right? I think the Bears have the right pieces put together, but they're just not quite there yet. Now, when we look at this Bears schedule, see this stretch right here from the Rams, Panthers, Jaguars, bye week, Commanders, Cardinals, Patriots. If they could flip those wins over the Jaguars, Commanders, Patriots, and Cardinals into wins instead of losses, giving them 6 wins in a row, I could see a 10-win team. I could see an 11-win team. Momentum is killer, right? If you're on a 6-game winning streak, you are 8-2 at that particular point going into the Green Bay Packers game, your first division game of the season. Ooh, slow it down, baby. Slow it down, baby. If that happens, In the first 10 weeks of the season, first 11 weeks of the season, if the Bears go 8-2, I can definitely see them winning 3 of their final, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. They could definitely win 3 of their 8 games, final 8 games. That right there is an 11-win team. So that 6-11 gets turned around to 11-6, and that is a playoff caliber team. That is a playoff team. So this week 4 through week 10 stretch there, week 9 stretch there, is a very, very critical part to the Bears season. Do they turn it on? They're a playoff team. If they lose to the Jaguars, Commanders, Cardinals, and Patriots, which I think they will, it's going to be a kind of a frustrating season. Matt says, Caleb has the keys to the Bugatti. Let's see if he can drive it. I mean, and that's kind of what is really good about the Chicago Bears right now. I spoke about it with Combs. I can't remember if it's pre-show or during the show. It's like the Bears are kind of built like the 49ers right now. They kind of have a plug-and-play quarterback system. The quarterback just doesn't have to suck. And let's see if he could do that. How many games would Chicago wins as Fields had these weapons? I don't know. I think Justin Fields would have more confidence going into the season. Caleb Williams, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, his final 5 games of his college career, he lost all 5. He ended up crying in a couple of them because he got beat so bad, right? I would anticipate they would probably be the same. Because this Bears team is really driven off of their defense. And if the defense can shut down the Jaguars, the Commanders, Cardinals, and Patriots, they can win those 6-7 games in a row there, going 8-2, going into the Packers game. It's all about the MO, baby. It's all about the momentum going into those divisional games. Because they play, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 divisional games in six weeks. It's tough to beat into a divisional opponent, let alone play them like basically back-to-back weeks. It's tough. I would say the Bears probably don't improve win-wise with or without Justin Fields. I think it's kind of a wash, mainly because we really don't know the full potential of Justin Fields. My man Beastie said Justin Fields is a playoff winning Super Bowl caliber quarterback on any other team from the Chicago Bears from last season. Would that carry over to this Bears team, or does he need a new change of scenery? I don't know. I don't know. All those division games late in the season is insane. It is. I feel like the Bears and the Steelers both kind of got screwed the tail end of their season because don't the Steelers play all 6 of their division games the last 8 weeks of the season? And the Bears play all 6 of their division games the last 10 weeks of the season. It's just, I don't know. I feel like the schedule could be more spread out a little bit, but it's all about making money at the end of the day. The one thing that I do hate is when you play the same team twice in 3 weeks. I think that is an absolutely dumbest thing in the world. But guys, that is going to be the Chicago Bear breakdown for today. Tomorrow we got the Minnesota Vikings. On Wednesday we have the Green Bay Packers. And then Thursday we got my man Luke G on to talk the Detroit Lions yet again. We got Mike Reeves on Tuesday. We got Green Bay Greg on Wednesday. Luke G on Thursday. Guests look all lined up all week long. NFC North breakdown all week long, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. We out.